Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sunny and Phoenix podcast, a weekly podcast where we keep you up to date on everything Phoenix Suns basketball. Now that our Suns have finished the season, it's time to give out some report cards, and we'll be starting with the backcourt today. After that, we'll talk about the playoffs and make some predictions about who we think will be moving on once this first round is over. I'm Charlie Erling, and I'm here with David McGraw. How's it going, man?
You know, I was going to try and come up with something witty. I've been trying to liven up my, normal just, hey, how's it going? So I've been trying to liven it up a little bit. And I'm just so, it's the end of the day, it's whatever. I'm just like, nah, I'm just going to roll with what I got right here and say a whole lot of nothing instead of coming up with something entertaining.
You know, I'm a night owl, so I'm kind of at the top of my game right now, and I thought you were the same way. I'm a little surprised.
I hit the top of my game in about 30 minutes. In about 30 minutes is when I hit to where I'm like, all right, I'm just awake now for the next 5 hours.
All right, well, let's just put in some cut music right here, and we'll be back in half an hour. Okay, we're back now, and I assume it's time for social media plugs. Make sure to get a hold of us on social media. Our Twitter is @SunnyandPHXPod. Our email is sunnyandphxpod@gmail.com. And check us out over at our new host, the Deepish Thoughts Podcast Network, over at deepishthoughts.com.
Thanks for listening to the Sunny and Phoenix podcast. If you'd like to further support the show, you can head over to tpublic.com/user/sunnyandphx. That's teepublic.com/user/sunnyandphx. We've got t-shirts, mugs, phone cases, all kinds of stuff. You can get our famous cheese is warming up design, or just one that says Sunny and PHX. Again, tpublic.com/user/sunnyandphx. And go Suns!
All right, let's get back into it, and it's time to give out some report cards for our Phoenix Suns. And like I said, we're starting with the backcourt today, and we'll move on to the front court next episode. And you know, this backcourt, pretty full of surprises this season. Some were good, some were bad. But David, let's start things off with the man at the point, Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah, you know, we were very nervous going into the season with Bledsoe. Of course, he had the meniscus tear. There was talk about him getting it removed completely and coming back at the end of last season, but that didn't happen. He was out the rest of the season, got it repaired. It's better for his athleticism going forward. We weren't sure how long it was really going to take for him to get back into the swing of things, and needless to say, he basically got right back into the swing right away. He probably had his best offensive career year. I think that's safe to say. These even to odd number seasons where it starts in even and goes to odd, he has normally been healthy, so I haven't been as nervous about his health because I just feel like the voodoo things are just the way they are. But he came out swinging. He had some really high scoring nights. He towards the end of the season was able to get some of those assist totals up when we were looking a little bit better on offense. But, you know, with this being a young team, we did kind of just ask Bledsoe to kind of just do whatever. And that's what we did. I think that Bledsoe did as good of a job as ever. And even though his defense did sag off a little bit, I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we say that it didn't. He is not that lockdown defender this year that we normally know Bledsoe to be. He was playing a ton on offense. And while I think normally we would say that Bledsoe was maybe in that tier with Mike Conley and those kind of things, I think he may have taken a step back from there just because of the two-way playing, and guys like Mike Conley lit him up. I say Mike Conley specifically because it seems like every game we played against him, he absolutely lit Bledsoe up and had a career game. So I think Bledsoe, from a league perspective, possibly took a couple spots back in maybe the point guard rankings with some of the talent in the league at the position and just how stacked it is in general. But I think for this team, he did what we needed him to do and exceeded. You know, this is a losing team. This was a tanking team. Kind of a bad team in general. I think that for a grade, I think you got to give him you say C is average, so whatever, but I think like a B above average is pretty good, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I actually had a B plus written down. So, you did say like this was a record-breaking offensive season for Eric Bledsoe's career. His own records, I mean. He averaged 21.1 points per game and 6.3 assists per game. Those were both career highs. Also pulled down 4.8 boards per game. And then on the shooting end, Bledsoe has been turning into a really solid free throw shooter, and he's been getting to the line a lot too. So those are good signs for him. He shot just about 85%. It was 84.7 from the line. Then he was a 43% field goal per shooter, and then 33.5 from downtown. So pretty decent shooting numbers, but the one reason why I can't give Bledsoe anything more than the B plus is the 1.87 assist to turnover ratio. It's
rough.
That's rough, and this was his best year in that category when it comes to that. So I guess we can say there was improvement there, and we can hope for him to build on that. But still, that 1.87, and then you look at Tyler Ulis, rookie in the league, 5'10". He's got a 2.94 assists to turnovers, so 2.9, just about 3 assists.
Of course, smaller sample size.
Sure, that's fair, but out of a point guard, I'd like to see that over 2 at least.
Agreed, completely agreed. And I think even though this was a career year technically for Bledsoe from that end, I think the fact that I think really just that kind of defensive step back kind of just adds to the not really being able to give much higher than a B.
I agree. And one more note, you mentioned it, like against Conley this season. If we're going to compete with teams that have an all-star point guard or all-star caliber point guard on their team, we need Bledsoe to match that from those guys. And then if you look back at the games against Conley and Westbrook and Harden, those type of guys, they outplayed him in each of those games. So as much as Bledsoe has become a leader for this team, he's becoming a little more vocal. It seems like I'd like to see his game step up with that too. So maybe next year he puts it all together. But we'll talk about this more on a different episode, but we'll talk about if Eric Bledsoe is even going to be a Sun next year. That's a hot topic this offseason.
And I think maybe comparing the outputs of performance and stuff against the 2 MVP candidates is a little rough for Bledsoe. I think keeping it at maybe just Mike Conley in that tier of point guards is a little bit more fair.
Okay, you're right. That's fair. Can't be too hard on Bled. Can't be too hard on the guy. But let's move on to a guy that we're not really hard on because he's just so good, Devin Booker. And I'll just go through some stats here quick. Booker played and started in 78 games this season while battling through injuries, so only missing 4 games. That's pretty nice to see, while playing 35 minutes per game. Booker put up 22.1 points per game, 3.2 boards per game, and 3.4 assists per game. And yeah, those 35 minutes are a lot. Those inflate those stats a little bit, but towards the end of the year, he was the main guy, and the ball was in his hands a ton. And when it comes to shooting, he was 42.3% from the field, which happens to be the exact same as last year. Pretty interesting.
Spooky.
And then he bumped up 2% from downtown up to 36.3%, and 83.2 from the line. So great shooting numbers. Not great, but good from Booker. We expect to see better. We know he's a better shooter than that, but they can't all go in.
Yeah, I want to say that if you probably took the numbers from, what was that? If you took the numbers from before maybe December 31st and did just the 2017 season, I feel like the percentages would be a lot better for him. Of course, He also had like a 70-point game technically in that merge, but like he had a 70-point game in the season in general, so whatever. Anyways, that's besides the point. I think that at the beginning of the season, he struggled a little bit. Bledsoe was the main runner on the offense, and I think Booker playing alongside him, it took a little bit for him to get back into the groove, even though he's just about right at the same where he was post All-Star break at the beginning of the season. But I think he took definitely the step forward. I feel like it was easy to tell after those games in Mexico City, where he really turned it on and had 2 39-point games and 2 really good games in general. And I thought that's when he really seemed to turn that corner and be more consistent throughout the season. He had that stretch of 20-point games and that kind of stuff. So I think right around there is where he really was able to take another step in his progression. I don't think... I mean, like, when it comes to grading him, I'm giving him an A. I'm just going to say that right now. But, like, just the growth that we've seen from him. He's not a good defender. He's still not a good defender. But you could see that the effort is there most of the time, I would say. There are times where he's caught kind of ball watching and stuff. But I think most of the time, the effort is there. And as he gets more size and those kind of things and becomes more disciplined, I would say, I think that he will continue to improve on that defensive end. But really,
all about the chase down blocks, though.
All about those chase down blocks. He's got to get those to a better average because, come on now, we don't want no scrub. But
that's right.
No, he was showing a little bit of his quote-unquote sneaky athleticism this season. Showed that he was clutch. Showed that he could score in just about any way. Whether that be post, mid-range, three-point shot, free throw, in the paint. All those things. I think... Yeah, I just said in the paint and post up. Whatever.
They're different. Technically
different. They are different. But he can kind of score in just about any way, and it's all really polished. And those are all things that I think we were less surprised about from Booker just because we are heavy on the hype train. So, I think that we weren't as surprised about those, but he just continued to show it and continued to show that with that little bit of a bigger role and him given the keys, he was going to be able to start showing off consistency.
Right, and with all these big games that he had, especially the obvious 70-point game, I really like that his name is now definitely known amongst probably even casual NBA fans. People know about Devin Booker and that huge game he had. And then all of the 30-plus point games he put up this season, just incredible. He had that long run of 20-plus points in a game. Just all the records he broke. It's pretty incredible. The youngest to score more than 60. There's just so many that happened this year. And this comes after a bunch of talk of a Devin Booker sophomore slump towards the beginning of the year. And yeah, we saw I wouldn't call it a slump. It was just a slow start would be my way of putting it. And then the incline, and then never going back down from that incline. It just stayed at the same rate. Like, the guy scored 21 points per game this season, and he's 20 years old. So much to be excited about. But I'm just going to give him an A-. I got to shaft him a little bit with the minus. We're going to see more, and that's why.
I'm not giving out minuses or pluses. I'm pretending this is college, where it's either A or B or C or D or whatever those. None of these A minuses, A pluses, B pluses, any of those kind of things. It just, I think my A is closer to a 91 than it is a 99.
So an A-. Just
yes,
say it.
But I'm not going to say that. I'm just giving it an A because I don't want to give that much thought.
That's
even
fine.
Though I just gave him a number. That's besides the point. Stop.
Okay, we're done.
Stop it.
Let's move. We're going to move on to the next one. We're going to move on to Devin Booker's best buddy, Tyler Ulis. And I don't think I could be more pleased with Tyler Ulis this season. I mean, 6 double-doubles. He scored over 10 points in 19 games. The 2.94 assist-to-turnover ratio I mentioned earlier. He put up a game with 34 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists. Just almost got that triple-double. And that was on Pat Beverly with the Rockets. So that was intense to watch. I mean, Ulis played in 61 games this season. He started the last 15. a little over 18 minutes, and then 7 points per game. But the stats, we don't even really need to talk about the stats. It's all about how he runs the offense and how he sets other guys up.
Yeah, not a whole lot expected from Tyler Ulis this season. He was a number 34 overall pick, second round pick. Not a whole lot of people thought he was going to do too much, thought he was too small for the NBA, all these things. But if anyone that had watched Tyler Ulis play knew that he plays with a gigantic chip on his shoulder. And, I think that showed really early when he was getting minutes. He was showing his vision for passing, just his playmaking and offensive running ability. And I know that we talked about it kind of throughout most of the season, and I'm nowhere near saying that, Tyler Ulis needs to run the offense going forward, but I think there's no reason that he's not a solid, and already, at least solid backup point guard for any team whatsoever. He just has that vision and that comfort in running an offense, and I honestly think some of the progression from some of the bigs as the season progressed, especially post All-Star break, may or may not have had to do with Ulis playing point and Bledsoe sitting out. Maybe just some of that ability to make the guys around you better. I'm not going to say that was all on Ulis, but I think there's an argument to be made that some of that was there. And the fact that, he was able to steal so much playing time as the season went on, he deserved all of it. The kid seems like a hard worker, and I'm glad that we have him in the Valley. Is, if anything, just to continue building that culture.
Right, and hey, I'm not calling Eric Bledsoe a ball hog, but Big Sauce would not have scored as many points, even close to as many points, without Ulis on the court with him.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's not throwing shade or anything, but, there are those point guards that are just going to pass it and try and get their bigs in really good position, and, Bledsoe's always been looked at as more of a combo guard, not a pure point, so it's no shade at all towards Bledsoe.
Right, and really for a winning basketball team, what would you rather have? Bledsoe running the show or Tyler Ulis dishing to Big Sauce for 30 minutes per game?
Yeah, and that goes along with the fact that we were a tanking basketball team. We were looking to see the talent on the roster to see who could be a piece going forward. But even though, with all that said, I think that each and every night the team really played their heart out, and I think Ulis was a big part of that. And so because of that, if we're saying average, I'm going to say again that I think Ulis deserves a B just for the fact that he exceeded expectations.
I'm going with the A because he was a second-round pick.
That's fair.
That's really the only reason why I'm giving him such a crazy grade, I guess. But I just got to go with the A for him. Just such high hopes. Really exceeded expectations. I don't know what I was expecting out of him, to tell you the truth. But once we saw him in NBA competition, you could tell this guy's a baller.
Yeah, I think most people thought that he would just be a D-League player and all these other things. So giving him an A based off of his expectations and those kind of things, I think, is not a stretch. I think maybe like a solid 10, 12 minutes a game would have been more than people expected. And he, towards the end of the season, was putting in way more minutes than that. So I don't think the A is uncalled for, but I think in the basics of the team, I'm going to give him a B.
Right. And maybe we should have caught on to it when we gave the guy a first-round contract while we drafted him in the second. So
yeah, that's kind of a...
That's like telling everybody you got a steal before you even knew he was a steal.
Yeah.
But they knew.
Yeah, I was like, canary in a coal mine? Is that the right wording? I'm going to go with that. Like,
sure.
That should have been a big flag of like saying like, hey, we believe in this kid. So
absolutely. So we believe in Tyler Ulis. We do not believe in Brandon Knight. I'm giving Brandon Knight an F. I'm just starting it off. I think this is the first F I've given on a podcast grade, and
That's rough.
Brandon Knight got it. So 54 games played, 5 games started, 21 minutes per game, which is a career low, 11 points per game, 2.2 boards, and a career low 2.4 assists. So with those minutes drops, we definitely saw some stat drops too. Shot a little under 40% from the field, 32% from 3. Yeah, just Brandon Knight really fell from, it's not a fall from grace. It wasn't great to begin with, but man, I was not expecting that to happen.
Yeah, there was some possible hype going on, especially even with us saying that this was the perfect role for Brandon Knight and all these other things. I don't think any of us expected him to do this well. I think one or two of us might have talked about the possibility of Ulis proving that Knight was not needed on the roster, but I don't think anyone expected that would be also because Brandon Knight forgot how to play basketball at all. So, yeah, this was, you say fall from grace and don't want to say that, but he was kind of leading a Milwaukee team to the playoffs a couple years ago where he was really the only person that could create offense and space the floor.
That is true.
And I think you got to remember that and keep that in context. And even last year, him and Bledsoe, to start the season when Bledsoe was healthy, they were putting up some combined 60-point games between the two of them and those kind of things. This was a crash and burn for Brandon Knight, and to the point where no other team even wanted to trade for him, unless we probably gave something else up. I think the reason that he was still on the roster was because of the fact that we just couldn't find any takers whatsoever. Right? It sucks, and it's unfortunate, but it happened, and I don't think any of us saw this coming. I don't want to give him an F because I realize that I'm surprised that he actually shot 32% from the 3. And I'm kind of surprised that he even had 2.4 assists average. So I'm going back on my previous statement of not giving plus or minuses and giving him a D-.
That's a good way to use the minus. That's fair. You didn't want to give the F, so that's understandable.
I do what I can.
So I don't think we need to talk about Knight any more than this. So let's talk about the guy that ended up filling a lot of his minutes this year, and the 3-time Sun, Leandro Barbosa. So Barbosa played in 67 games this year, 14.4 minutes per game, 6.3 points per game. Shot almost 44% from the floor, almost 38 from downtown, and almost 89 from the line. So, I mean, with Barbosa, you just can't. There's nothing you can gripe about. He's there. He plays hard every game. Towards the end of this tank here, he's playing like a beast out there, and just really got to appreciate it out of a veteran like that.
Yeah, the effort level is definitely there for Barbosa. I don't think there's any questions whatsoever in the fan base, or even in the league in general, just the professional that he is. And, he did a lot more than just provide that veteran leadership. He had a Shackton moment, which was really just funny in general. It wasn't even like a bad thing or anything. It was just funny, and it was whatever. I love Barbosa. I think I will always rate what he does better than it ever is. And that's just because, this is his 3rd time with the team, and every single time it's like, yeah, I guess he has to go, but, does he really have to? I just love the dude a ton, and I was really happy with the minutes that he played, even if he was having a bad night or whatever. Just being out there and playing his heart out and being a professional, I think, is something that he needed to do, and is what he did, and we needed it. And I think all the young guys are better for it. So I'm going to give Barbosa a B.
Yep, I'm with you there. And here's a hypothetical for you. So let's let's wipe the slates clean, the contract slates. Wipe them clean. And then next year, you have a choice to bring in on a 1-year minimum deal Brandon Knight or Leandro Barbosa. Who would you rather have on your team for 82 games next year?
I mean, that's not a question. You just heard me talk about my love for Barbosa, so I'm picking Barbosa. I don't care.
Isn't that crazy to think about, though?
I don't care if he's 45 years old. I'd rather have Barbosa. Like, that's just where I'm standing. I've dug my trench. Whatever.
Yeah, so, like, at the beginning of the season, though, would you have answered the same way?
No. Not. I don't think I would have. I think I would have picked Brandon Knight and used him as he's just younger, and he could have a spark plug kind of role as Barbosa, and you expect Barbosa not to play that many more years. But yeah, I think Barbosa might have a little bit of a longer tenure now in the league left than possibly Brandon Knight, and that's kind of scary.
That is scary. Okay, and last but not least, we have Ronnie Price. Okay, moving on. We're through all of the game ones of the opening round of the NBA playoffs, so let's talk about what we've seen from these matchups and who we expect to move forward. And here, I'll start things off in the West. And the Warriors and the Trailblazers played yesterday, and it was just a flat-out great basketball game. Lillard and McCollum were firing on all cylinders for the Blazers, but the Dubs ran away with it midway through the fourth quarter. My only worry about this series is I think the Blazers were just playing out of their minds today, but still ended up falling short. Like, Dame and CJ combined for 75 points in this one, but it wasn't enough, and that just does not look good for them heading forward. I think they'll take one game from the Warriors, though, but it'll be a 4-1 series.
Yeah, I think this is tough, and while Dame and CJ were played out of their minds, I think the rest of the team did not really play out of their minds at all. I think it was something like, I think it was tied at 60-2 or something like that at halftime. Something like that, and Dame and CJ had accounted for like 85 or 90% of the team's points at halftime. There's a reason why so many people are big fans of Dame, and that's because he lets it all, he leaves it all out there and when it matters, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And he has had some big playoff performances in his first couple of years. I think that him and CJ will be able to will this team to at least one game against the Warriors, because this team was expected to not even make the playoffs. At the trade deadline, they shipped off Mason Plumlee for Nurkic as almost a rebuilding move and a way to get a young center still on his rookie contract, shed some cap space, those kind of things. And then the Blazers with Nurkic just kind of started playing out of their minds and willing themselves into that 8th seed. And I think that is a big win for them. I think maybe some of the fans would have rather had that lottery pick, but the fact is the Blazers have 3 picks this year. So just because of that, I think that they are still in a good position, even though they might not be able to make this a competitive series. But I don't think that's going to be because Dame and CJ are at fault. Those dudes are going to ball out and play their hardest, and that's just who they are.
Yep, they just need a little help.
Exactly.
Okay, moving on. ISO Joe hit that game winner in the Jazz versus the Clippers game the other night. And I was pretty hyped for the Jazz in that one. After losing Gobert on the first possession of the game, I thought they were done for, but they played great, came away with a win. And it looks like Gobert is definitely going to be out for the rest of the series, so how do you see this one going down?
I don't know if Gobert is going to be out the entire series. I think it was just a hyperextended knee and a bone bruise, right?
Yeah, but
I think that I think that there is a chance for him to play in a game or two. There's about 3 or 4 days in between games, the first and the second one, and I think that the schedule starts to tighten up a little bit after that. But I think that there will be enough time to by game 5 or 6 that there's a possibility of him playing. I don't know. That Jazz team is extremely well coached. I think that people have been sleeping on Quinn Snyder for a while. Dude can coach, and this is the reason why the Jazz brought Joe Johnson to begin with, to be a veteran, but to also, they felt that they were a playoff team, and they knew that Joe Johnson was a clutch player, and he's made his money's worth just on that shot alone.
Oh yeah, and I like when they play Joe at the stretch 4 and then make Griffin match up on him. I just love when they do. That's beautiful.
Miami did something similar with Joe last year, where they played Hassan and then Joe at the 4, and then basically I think it was Tyler Johnson, and so they had Goran, Wade, Tyler Johnson, and Joe, and it just opens up everything with Joe at the 4, and he's 6'7", 6'8", or whatever, so he's tall enough to do it, and he's still quick. He's a little older, but gotta give love to ISO Joe.
I'm going Jazz in 6.
I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. These are the Clippers that they're playing against. I think this is going to be one of the better series, and I think a 6 or 7 game series is in the works. And you say in Jazz in 6, I could also see, I don't want to count out playoff Blake, because if he's healthy, then he can step it up a notch, and Chris Paul plays the same no matter what day it is.
Of course.
So I don't want to count them out, but I don't think it's far-fetched to say that the Jazz definitely have a good shot at winning this series.
I think I'm rooting for the Jazz out of the West. That's who I'm going to root for.
That's fair. I have a couple. Yeah. I have a couple different teams in the West. I don't really have a set team that I want to make it, just because I feel like I feel like we just know what's going to happen, and it's just kind of it's inevitable at this point. Right.
Okay, moving down the bracket here, Spurs at Grizzlies, and man, that was a rough one to watch the other day. As well as Gasol played for the Grizzlies. Man, I just don't know if they're going to be able to get past the Spurs. I'm so sick of the Spurs.
Yeah, I am so done with the Spurs. And dumb Kawhi has to be an MVP candidate this year. And, even though he's not playing as lockdown defense, is still, probably one of, if not the best two-way players in the game. Come on, Spurs. Can you, just screw up or something?
Someone's going to mess up at some point, and us Suns fans will rejoice.
Yeah, well, they've had 4 seasons or something dumb like that out of their entire existence where they've screwed up, so. And most of that's because of injury.
Timmy retired last year. Now it's time for Ginobili, and then next year, Parker.
Oh, you think next year is going to be Parker?
Then we get Leonard for 15 more years.
I don't think it's the craziest thing to, as slow and old as he's getting, for Parker to play maybe 3 more years.
I'd just like to see a chain reaction of those old guys retiring, though. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
I'm completely behind you. If they would have all 3 retired together last year, I would have been ecstatic.
Oh, that would have been ideal. That would have been a celebration.
And then Kawhi just came out of nowhere. It's actually, I don't even like basketball. I'm kind of just here, so I'm going to retire too. And that would have been the dream scenario.
There we go. All right, so Houston and Oklahoma City. Just finished watching that one before we recorded this one. So I said this to David, and I think he didn't agree with me, but I said, winner of this series takes home the MVP trophy, Harden versus Westbrook. And Rockets did work on the Thunder tonight, so I think James deserves that MVP. How about you, David?
I didn't necessarily disagree with you. I think I said, like, it might not be the fairest thing because, the Rockets just have the better offensive team in general, and I think we saw that tonight. And I think that the Thunder can clamp down. Clamp is what I'm going to use as the word. Clamp. I think they can clamp down on defense a bit. That Oklahoma arena, it's really loud, and they have a really strong home court advantage. They, of course, have to steal a game in Houston. And who I think is MVP besides, because, I still don't know. I think both players are really good. I think that the Rockets just have the better team, have the better coach, and they just have more creators on offense. And I think when the MVP candidate sits, the Rockets have a better chance of winning.
Totally agree. And I think I can see OKC winning, maybe 2 games at home. Maybe Houston in 6 might be my guess.
You could tell me that OKC wins 1 game, but they're all close games, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. I think that this is closer to a 6 or 7 game series, just because playoff Westbrook, he will bring it on. It's just going to be the question of if his teammates are able to elevate, and Andre Robertson had some sparkings of offense. Victor Oladipo looked like he was trying to step up in the moment. So it's just going to be a question of his supporting cast being able to step up and steal some games from him. But that Rockets team, when Patrick Beverley, Ryan Anderson, and one of either Clint Capella or Nene are on the floor with Harden, are just really good.
Yep, they're looking good. So let's move over to the East. We'll buzz through these ones. The Bulls stole Game 1 from the Celtics yesterday.
I'm surprised, but I'm also not surprised at all.
Right. Yeah, sure. And just have to mention it, the tragedy with Isaiah Thomas's sister.
Yeah.
That was just rough. Thoughts to his family and him, obviously, but man, just watching before the game with Avery Bradley having his arm around him, sitting next to the court like half an hour before the game or whatever. Maybe that was closer to an hour before, but man, that was tough to watch. So I was feeling for him, and man, I got to root for IT and the Celtics now.
I can't root for him. I just can't. I feel bad for him, and it sucks, and it's just statistics in life, really, just in general, and that's not me making it seem like it's not a big deal, because it sucks, but this kind of stuff happens, and I don't think him underperforming in the series would change anyone's mind about him if that happens, just because his mind's in another place, because it sucks, but I think he's gonna play his heart out for sure, and I have no ill will, I will say, towards him, but I'm just never gonna root for him. That's just how it is. And I am, as much as I don't like the Bulls either, I am rooting for the Bulls in this one, just because I'd rather the Bulls win than the Celtics. And man, those rebounding numbers were pretty rough in the Bulls' favor.
Yeah. Okay, John Wall really turned it on today for the Wizards. Just incredible plays left and right. Great game. They kind of ran away with a win over the Hawks. And I think this is going to be a really fun series to watch. And as much as I don't want to see Markieff Morris win a playoff series, I think that might be how this one ends.
Yeah, I think the Wizards are just the better team, just in general. Their bench was not playing very well, but they do have some guys that can get hot, like Bogdanovich. I think that John Wall, I don't think you can count him out. He is one of the, top 5 isn't that dumb to say. I think the best pure point guard in the league. I guess the argument's there for him or Chris Paul, but I think when it comes to finding that other level, John Wall is pretty tough to beat, and he's good, and he makes everyone around him better. He needs to have a fund for every small forward that's played next to him and then gotten a huge contract after the fact.
Yeah, Otto Porter looking at you this offseason.
Otto Porter is getting paid. Paul Pierce got his career extended and got a seat on the Clippers bench because of it. And, I mean, Trevor Ariza got a nice payout from the Rockets after being in the John Wall wayward home for small forwards that need a big payday.
All true. Okay, really good game between the Cavaliers and Pacers the other day. I think Pacers need to make some defensive adjustments. I mean, how many times did we see Jeff Teague get switched on to LeBron? And, I mean, if the Pacers can fix that up a little bit, this is going to be an interesting series. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Paul George. He has a chip on his shoulder, I think, always against LeBron, and always wants to beat him. There were those great Pacers Heat, like, semi-rivalry for that couple of years. I think that he wants to beat LeBron bad, so I think he will elevate his game. I think the Cavaliers, just if they can put it all together, just of course have one of the best teams in the league. But I'm rooting for Paul George, and hope he can make some noise.
Yeah, if you have Kevin Love, LeBron James, and Kyrie Irving all having solid games, that's tough to compete with.
Yeah, and just the 3-point firepower that they have too on, like, coming off the bench, when you can cycle in guys like J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver, Channing Frye, just as have fresh bodies just continually to just jack up threes and just be fresh. I think that it's tough, and it's tough to beat.
I get a little jelly every time I see Kevin Love and Channing Frye spreading the court.
Yeah, it's tough. I love Kevin Love. I love to. I use love a lot. I'm sorry. I just realized that I was doing that.
Love.
Love's cool. He had some great seasons with Minnesota, and I felt a lot better rooting for him while he was in Minnesota. Not as much now that he's on the Cavs, and that's kind of disappointing. I wish he was on a team that I could root for him for. I mean, like, he's a dude that can get a double-double every night and space the floor, and then not a bad passer either. So,
all right, so the last series of the playoffs here, Bucks versus Raptors, should be a big-time series. I guess I was a little bit surprised to see the Bucks take Game 1 like that, and a little disappointed as well, since I'm rooting for the Raptors in the East. I still love you, PJ. So, David, how do you see this one ending up, going down?
Bucks and 6 in the 6, man. I'm on the hype train. I'm on the hype train hard. I have been kind of all season, even when they were sucking. But man, Giannis is my dude. He's great. They got Middleton back. Middleton's great. Thon Maker is coming up out of nowhere, which is not something I expected. But that's why I don't get paid to be a GM or a talent evaluator. I mean, I'm on the hype train. I was totally all in for rooting for the Raptors and for PJ until they got lined up to play against the Bucks, and I was like, man, now I got to root for the Bucks over PJ. Sorry, PJ, I love you, but I got to root for Giannis because, man, is he? I mean, he is. His nickname is the Greek Freak for a reason because that dude is nuts.
Yep, he's incredible. Just flat out. Really haven't seen anybody do it like him before. Okay, well, I say we make some finals predictions. Just throw them out there. And I was thinking about this earlier, and mine is just not even fun. I see the Warriors making it from the West, and I see the Cavs making it from the East. That's pretty weak, but that's what I think's going to happen. How about you?
I mean, this is what everyone's expected since summer.
Right.
I think that if anyone's going to take out the Cavs, this is the year. I think that this is the year for them to do it because there has been a lot of drama, as always, around them. I think this is kind of the same way I felt about a LeBron-led team as the 2014 Heat, where they were having a lot of drama surrounding them. It was right before LeBron's contract, and then the Spurs kind of came into the finals and just didn't sweep, but like wrecked them up. And really, it wasn't a close series. This is the one before. This is I have the same feeling about this LeBron-led team. I think if anyone's going to stop the consecutive years in the final streak, it's going to be this year. I just don't know what team's going to do it. I don't have faith enough in the Raptors to be able to start playing well and playing consistently, because they just can't do it in the playoffs. They never have been able to. And you have these PJ Tucker quotes where he's even saying, like, no one's really thinking it's that big of a deal when they go down one game, because they just think that's what they do and all these other things, and they're just relaxed about it. And so I just don't have faith in the Raptors to do it. I think maybe if a team's going to do it, it's going to be the Wizards, just because they are hot at the right time. I just don't know if I'm going to put a ton of faith in that. I think that it might take... I think the Wizards are probably the best bet to beat the Cavs, if I'm going to say there's a team to beat them, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Right, I was thinking the same thing. The Raptors would have to get through the Bucks first to beat them. So, and if anyone were to, I'd say Wizards or Raptors too. So, yeah, same thinking as you.
The Wizards just match up well. They have a point guard that can abuse Kyrie Irving. Gortat has been an above-average center for years now. Even while he was with us, he was an above-average center, and an above-average center can really wreck the inside of that Cavs defense. So, I think that's where it goes.
Right on. Well, hey, everybody, that's going to do it for this week. Be sure to check us out on social media. Our Twitter is @SunnyandPHXPod, and our email is sunnyandphxpod@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week while we talk about the front court. See you next time. Go Suns.